YouTube tells me we are live. So, hopefully no technical difficulties this month. Fingers crossed, toes crossed. We'll see. If there is, let me know. I'll try to fix it. But let me know if you can hear me. Type into the chat. Tell me what part of the world you're at. How clear my voice is. Hello, Mr. Noski. How long your streak is, if you care to share. I did shave my beard. For Halloween, I was Mr. Clean, so I had to commit to the costume. Hello? And it was a successful costume. For those of you who don't know who Mr. Clean is, look it up. I think I pulled it off pretty well. Halfway through the night, I turned into vampire Mr. Clean. Welcome everybody. As you come in, let us know what part of the world you're watching me from. Look younger, take that as a compliment. And as we gather more and more people, we'll get started with the Q&A. But today, first, I'm going to start with a little reading from a book that I find to be very valuable. And I recommend it all the time. So, a treat for you. It's a daily reader. So every single day of the year, it has a little bit of reading about wisdom that is very valuable on the journey of recovery from pornography or sex addiction, or really for anyone in the world can really benefit from that. Someone from Israel, welcome. I'm looking like a Buddhist monk apparently. Take that as a compliment as well. All right. We got 15, 16 viewers. That's enough to get started. So this is a reading from the book Gifts of Recovery by Timothy Stein. Daily meditations for men and women in recovery from sex addiction. Porn addiction too, or really anyone can benefit from this wisdom. For today, November 23rd, the quote for today is, okay. Our addiction leads us into many problems. There are many ways we can change these problems if we open ourselves to the possible solutions. However, we often push away these possible solutions and justify our addictive behavior with a yes, but statement. Yes, but I am no worse than any other red-blooded American. Yes, but I never bring it home. Yes, but they don't understand me. When we change our answers from yes, but to okay, healing happens. What problems has my addiction created? What have been my yes, but answers? What gifts await me as I start to answer okay? If you have struggled with addiction or compulsions, self-control, you probably recognize that in your own life. Addiction is all about rationalizations and excuses, ways that we can do mental gymnastics to justify our behavior. Yes, I know I've made some mistakes, but it's no worse than anyone else has done. There's always an excuse, always a rationalization for why it's okay to use or why our behavior is okay. But when we realize that we don't have to make those excuses and we can just accept, like, yes, I did some things that I regret. They're not things that I want to do again. Then we can really start to move forward. So again, that was a reading from Gifts of Recovery by Timothy Stein. Recommend you check it out. All right, we'll get started with the Q&A. So I'll get started answering questions. If you have questions, if you have a story you want to share, just type it into the chat and we'll get to it. We'll discuss it. And if we run out of questions, then I'll start answering some YouTube comments on the channel. Gare asks, cravings are unbearable. I don't know if you ever have, but can you give some ideas on how to beat these cravings? Yeah, I talk about that all the time. Of course, it's one of the most common questions. How do I handle these urges? How do I get over it? And spend a whole book answering those questions, so it's hard to sum it up right here and right now. But I can give you a few pointers to start with. And that is, On this journey, it's just as important to focus on what you do want in your life as what you don't want, filling up your life with all the things that are going to fulfill your core needs for purpose, for community, for connection, for acceptance, love and understanding, for passion. And the more you can fill up your life with these things that actually fulfill your core needs, the less you'll be plagued by those urges. Of course, that's not going to do it in and of itself, because we're always going to have a bad day, bad moment, bad minute. And in that low point, it's going to be much more tempting to go back to whatever we know is going to make us feel better, at least for a few minutes. And for most of us, that's pornography. Most of us here in this room anyway. So in those moments, it really pays to have systems in place, safety nets, that keep you from being able to access pornography just with a few clicks of a button. When it's that close, the urges are all the more closer and difficult to ignore, because it's just like an alcoholic trying to recover from alcoholism with a flask in their pocket. You know, if there's no alcohol in the house, no alcohol around them, all their friends know that, like, no, I don't offer no alcohol, then it's a little bit more difficult for me to access that. But if I just have the flask right there in my pocket, all it takes is a momentary impulse and then I'm using. So it pays to have systems in place that prevent you from accessing porn that easily. So that can mean I don't have internet in my home and I go do whatever work I have to do down at the cafe or the library. Or it could mean I installed accountability software on all my devices and I asked friends and family to be my accountability partners, so that I know anything I look at online, I'm going to have to be okay with my mother, my father, my brothers seeing, you know, people that you trust to help you along this journey. And in that moment, when you do have the urge, there's always going to be a way to access pornography. You can go down and buy a new device, you can borrow a friend's device, even if you've set up these systems. So it pays to have a plan for what you would like yourself to do when those urges hit. And that means having a plan that allows you to step back from whatever is going on and get a breath, refocus your mind on something else. Take your mind and your emotions and switch it up. So if your plan might be exercise, do like 50 push-ups, that can be enough to get your mind on a different headspace and allow that wave of the urge to pass. It can be something silly like turning on music and dancing. It can be something to connect you to others, like calling someone, not even talking about the urges or porn, but just having that human-to-human connection. And once you have a plan like that, practice it and visualize it. When you don't need it, practice it. And that way when you do need it, it'll be more automatic. All right, let's get to some more questions. Hello from the UK, hello from India, worldwide room here. Row says, hi Noah, I have a real strange story. I'm a 27-year-old guy, a heavy porn user. I PMO 2 times a day on average, using very extreme genres of porn. I went with a prostitute, which I didn't like and had weak to no erection. The problem is if I have ED or not. I can masturbate without porn or fantasy after only 2 days free from PMO. So you're wondering if you have PIED or if it's some other cause. And whether it's PIED or not, there's going to be no harm in abstaining from pornography use for a few months and seeing if that helps you. If you find that you're unable to do that, then you might be struggling with addiction to pornography, which in and of itself, whether or not that's affecting your sexual function, is a good enough reason to tackle this and to quit using porn. But if you're at the point where you are addicted and find it very difficult to stop using porn, it's very likely that it is having an impact on your sexual function with real people. But that you can masturbate without pornography, without fantasy, is a good sign that physically you should be sensitive enough to at least perform moderately well sexually. So might be something else going on here. Might be that you haven't had a chance to rewire and condition your sexuality to responding to the touch of a real person, the presence of a real person. That can take time and practice with someone you trust. And it could be that you also struggle with anxiety around sex, and that's an issue a lot of us struggle with. especially those who have grown up on pornography and don't have much real sexual experience. It's going to take some time, and there are certain things that you can do to make it a lot easier to help yourself relax and just enjoy the moment. Those things tend to work better with someone you know and trust, but I don't know if you're in a position to have that right now. I'd recommend first steps is learning as much as you can about PIED, pornography addiction. Read my book, Whack, Addicted to Internet Porn. You can find it on my website, addictedtointernetporn.com. Just subscribe to my newsletter, get the PDF in your inbox, and try to abstain from pornography for a while. If you find it really difficult, that's a sign that this is important for you to focus on. Abhishek Peter asks, does NoFap cure ED and PE? Meaning erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation. It can, certainly. ED, if it is pornography induced or masturbation induced, NoFap can go a long ways toward healing that, but it's not the only step that you may need to take. Like I said, rewire is very important. Practicing intimacy, also learning how to relax and just enjoy sex if you have a lot of anxiety and dread built up around that. So NoFap by itself won't do all the work for you, but it is an essential component for people who have PIED. And NoFap, by that I mean, it's a vague term. It can mean a lot of different things. By that I mean no porn, and also probably no masturbation, at least for periods of time. And about premature ejaculation, NoFap and no pornography can certainly help. I've worked with many guys for whom that's really all they needed in order to start curing their premature ejaculation, but it's not necessarily a cure-all. There are people who've never seen porn, don't masturbate that much, who still struggle with premature ejaculation. So there might be other things you need to do to address that issue. Simon says, I had a chaser effect after a nocturnal emission and slipped after a 2-week sobriety patch. Yeah, that chaser effect is something to watch out for, and it can happen even after completely completely accidental nocturnal emission, where your body is just back in that mode of seeking orgasm. And that can last for a few days. It can make the urges a lot more strong, it can make this journey a lot more difficult, but you should get accustomed to that, because eventually, probably part of your life that you want is orgasms, having it with a partner, and you're going to have to be aware of that chaser effect and be prepared to handle it. So you slipped because of the chaser effect this time. It doesn't have to be that way always. Learn how to handle that, learn how to harness that energy in other ways, and put protections in place that allow you to remain porn-free even when those urges are hitting you hard. Emiliano joining from the UK, welcome. Misunderstood asks, what are your thoughts on masturbating to porn only 2 to 3 times a month? Will you still see benefits? So many people in this world masturbate to porn in moderation occasionally, once a month, a few times a month. It doesn't really cause them many acute problems like sexual dysfunction, addiction. So if you're one of those people and you want to continue doing that, I'm not going to tell you to stop. If you've never gone a couple months without any porn at all, I recommend it just to try it out, see how it makes you feel, see if it's very difficult, see if it comes with benefits. If you are someone who knows you are an addict or has experienced porn-induced sexual dysfunction, and you're just trying to reduce your use of porn to only 2 to 3 times a month, you can experiment with it, see how it goes. In my experience with all my clients and in personal experience, it's not going to work very well. I don't expect it to work very well. And if you struggle with addiction 2 to 3 times a month, it's just going to whet your appetite and create more urges, keep it on your mind, and not actually allow you to become free entirely from those frequent urges and those thoughts and those fixations on pornography. And if you're struggling with sexual dysfunction, 2 to 3 times a month is enough to keep that sexual dysfunction active. And it takes usually a lot more use than that to develop the sexual dysfunction in the first place. But once your sexuality is wired to a screen and you're desensitized, it does not take much use at all to maintain that desensitization and that conditioning. So if you're struggling to overcome a porn-induced sexual dysfunction, I really do recommend 100% abstinence from porn. El Toro Fitness asks, how do you meet women? Tinder is triggering. Please help. Porn free for 3 years, but I don't want to rely on the internet for women. Thanks. Yeah, I hate dating apps. I hate dating websites. They don't work for me. I've tried them in the past. I just don't like them. They, in my opinion, teach us to devalue people and to judge people very quickly, constantly swiping, judging people just by a brief impression, and I just don't like it. I much prefer meeting women in the real world, just going about my life. So if you are not meeting enough women in your life, they're just not around during the activities that you participate in, then adopt some new activities. What are you passionate about? What are you interested in? Find groups of people who are doing that. Don't necessarily go join these groups with the mindset of I'm looking for a girlfriend or I'm going to flirt with every attractive woman there. Just go, have a good time, engage in your passions, volunteer, go take a class, and do things. Get yourself out into the world where people are, including attractive women, and become accustomed to making friends, having a good time, having laughs. Eventually, you'll probably feel a connection, feel a spark between you and a woman, and offer her an invitation. Hey, I really enjoyed talking with you. Would you like to grab a coffee? Or, hey, I haven't had dinner yet tonight. Would you like to make dinner together? Something like that. And if she rejects you for whatever reason, that's cool. That's just her doing you the favor of saying, no, I'm not going to waste your time for whatever reason. It's not going to work. I have a boyfriend. I'm not looking right now. You're not my type. Whatever the reason is, she's doing you a favor. Don't let that deflate your sense of self-esteem. There's billions more women out there. Oop. All right. Simon says, again, what are your thoughts on nocturnal emissions? I slipped after the chaser effect. Nocturnal emissions, they're really difficult to control if you have them frequently or infrequently. Sometimes if you're having a sexual dream and you realize that you're dreaming, you can wake yourself up and stop the process. But if you can't, don't worry about it. It might cause chaser effects, it might cause an orgasm hangover. You just got to deal with it. There's really no foolproof way to prevent them. But don't look at them as a relapse or even really a setback. It might feel that way for a day or two if you are prone to orgasm hangovers or the chaser effect, but see it as just an extra challenge, and every challenge that we overcome makes us stronger and more capable. AT2L says, dude, my life sucks, my penis is dead, shrunk, whenever I wear pants, my dick and balls hurt, and when I start getting alright, I get nightfall, and it ruins it all. I imagine you're talking about nocturnal emissions too. And yeah, many of us, our life sucks at certain points throughout recovery and even afterwards. There's always going to be moments when life sucks. It sounds like you're in a flat line if your penis feels dead and shrunken. That doesn't last forever. That's temporary and common along this journey. About 2/3 of men who go through this process experience flatline, in my experience, and can last anywhere from a few days to honestly up to a year or more. Those are rare and probably won't be the case for you, but if you're really concerned about this, it's been a long time, you'd like to talk about it more, get to know your situation and maybe give you some better advice. So like you all probably know, you can find ways to work with me one-on-one on my website, addictedtointernetporn.com. Thyman Van Shippingen says, I listen to eating noises when I feel an urge. Nothing makes it go away like disgusting sounds. I haven't heard that one before, so might have some smacking eating noises queued up on your phone or your listening device for those urges. If that disgusts you, it might be a good tip. 404 Sage Not Found says, hey Noah, you are an OG. Appreciate it. Thanks for what you do. I'm on day 60 and feeling great, though dead down there. I PMO'd every day for 12 years, and this is my first streak. I'm positive. Good, I'm glad you're feeling positive and hopeful. Every day for 12 years, you're in brand new territory, and each day is going to bring you surprises, some of them pleasant, some of them not so much. But this is a roller coaster ride. Stick with it and experiment and discover what this journey has in store for you. Learn as much as possible. If you haven't read my book yet, do it. And good luck for you. Gare says, I have a weird case where I hear a song that used to play in porn videos I used to watch. And if I hear that song on the radio to this day, I get super aroused. Yeah, we can become conditioned to lots of triggers. And these triggers might not be overtly sexual. They might just be related to our past use, whether that's just being at home alone or sitting down at a computer in the same room where we used to use, or feeling a certain emotion, or hearing a certain song, hearing a name, hearing a word. All these can lead to our heart starting to race and we're feeling triggered, might be starting to feel aroused. And all of these things are fine. It's not our responsibility to avoid triggers. It's our responsibility to know how to deal with them when they come. And you won't be triggered like this for the rest of your life if you stick to this journey and remain porn-free. Most of us have heard of Pavlov's dog, how the dog was trained to salivate at the sound of a bell, which is not directly related to food, but Pavlov would ring the bell whenever he gave the dog food. So the dog started to associate food with the sound of the bell, just like you associate masturbation to porn with that song. But what most people don't know is that after Pavlov had trained the dog to start salivating just at the sound of the bell without any food present, he then rung that bell over and over again until that association was broken and the dog stopped salivating at the sound of the bell. So if you hear this song many times and you refuse to give in to those urges, and that song does not lead to pornography, to masturbation, eventually that association will be broken and it will have lost its power over you. Akijuni says, I have been relapsing several times lately, even though I was so determined to break free. I rationalize a lot the shame and the disappointment which goes with relapse. Yeah, I've been there. For those of you who don't know, I went through my own period of relapses. After I first quit, I was clean for about, 7 to 9 months. It's hard to remember exactly. And that was enough time to see so much progress in my life and to write the book. But then I had my own period of relapse, and I realized I'd underestimated the strength of my own addiction. This was all before I began coaching, but for about a year, I struggled on and off with relapse, made myself so many promises, so many commitments, rationalized with myself, broke those promises over and over again. It took me a long time to learn personally how to be more permanently porn-free. But it is possible. I'm here to tell you that. And I understand that shame, that disappointment in yourself, even self-loathing. But I encourage you not to hate yourself for this. You didn't choose to become a porn addict. No one told you exactly what would happen and then let you make an informed choice. You didn't make an informed choice. You followed your impulses and you got caught in a trap, and that's not your fault. It's your responsibility now to figure out how to progress, how to grow out of this trap, but it's not your fault that you're here. How did the people I knew in my life react when I published my story in my book? Was it hard to make that step? It was a difficult decision, yeah. I told the important people in my life before I published the book, of course. First person I told was the woman I was seeing at the time when I started my journey, and started to tell friends. Then eventually, as the book was becoming more and more serious and looking like, yes, this was going to happen, I opened up to my family as well. It wasn't an easy conversation, but for the most part, it went well. And they understood that I was trying to turn something that had been negative for me in my life into a positive that I could help other people with. And that was a really important step in my relationship with a lot of my family members. I feel like it made me more confident in who I am, more comfortable around them, and brought us closer together in the end. Is everyone going to experience that? No. But for the most part, our fears about how a conversation, a disclosure will go with our loved ones are much more severe than the reality will be. And as far as other people who found out about what I do since then, haven't been told by me personally, the reaction is 99% positive. And people really tend to respect the courage to be vulnerable and the attempt to help other people. And that's all I'm trying to do. Addicted Gamer says, I finally stopped my wet dream cycle. Well, if you would like to tell us how, I know at least one or two people who would like to listen to that. Waleed says, can you elaborate on porn-induced fetishes, gay, she-male, ... Yeah, so pornography-induced tolerance means over time, using this super stimulus, we become desensitized to it, and the same material that used to arouse us so much no longer really does much for us, and we start seeking new images, new genres, new performers, maybe more extreme, more shocking, more fetishistic, more deviant, any material that will pair another strong emotion with sexual arousal is going to heighten the amount of dopamine in the reward center. And even if that emotion is patently negative on the surface, it can raise dopamine in our reward center. Fear, shock, disgust all raise dopamine. And if we're already aroused, at least to some extent, then that can actually lead to a spike in the arousal. And once we're desensitized enough, we tend to need that extra spike in order to get aroused enough to masturbate and to orgasm. So that can lead us into flitting between different genres, always seeking something new, something that's going to give us that hit, that spike. And some people can fixate on certain genres that do it for them better than others. And I'm not going to say that you can't discover like latent innate desires in yourself by seeing things in pornography. That is absolutely possible. Maybe you see something in pornography that you never really thought about before, but it has an immediate allure for you. And maybe you always would have discovered that eventually in real life in exploration with sexual partners. So that is certainly possible. But it is also possible, and I know it, for us to condition ourselves to become aroused exclusively by certain genres of pornography that are not in accordance with our original sexuality, and that shouldn't be the only way that we can get aroused. So some people, for example, can get fixated on pornography depicting transsexual individuals, or pornography that otherwise conflicts with their own sense of who they are sexually. And this can be really distressing because all of a sudden their identity is up in the air. They're not sure who they are or what kind of partners they're looking for. And for these people who have been using porn consistently for years and slowly developed these desires through pornography, it is very likely that quitting the pornography use and allowing yourself to resensitize, that you will regain interest in the types of sexual scenarios and partners that originally attracted you. And you may or may not lose interest in some of the kinks or fetishes or genres that you escalated to. It could just fade into the background, be something you're still kind of interested in, but not need for arousal. And it might be something that someone chooses to explore in real life, or maybe not. It's really up to the individual. Emiliano says, I'm going to be home alone for a while, 3 months, because my wife is in another country at the moment. My question is, how do you not relapse and live alone at the same time? Well, that's alone time without your wife, but I encourage you to look at it as an opportunity rather than just punishment or an unnecessarily difficult time. It's an opportunity for you to be at peace with yourself and your own sexuality, for you to realize that orgasm is not a need and that you get to choose how, when, and with whom to express your sexuality, and that you're not a slave to your own impulses. Now, whether or not you masturbate porn-free during this time, it's up to you, and I encourage you to think about that. Have a conversation with your wife, decide what you would want to do, what she's okay with you doing. For most of us, occasional porn-free masturbation is something that we are able to handle, at least at a certain point in our journey. But for other people, they can really benefit, especially if you haven't done it before, from a longer period completely abstinent. It can teach you a lot about yourself, and it'll sure make the reunion with your wife after that 3 months very special and passionate. The wind turbine says, day 67, haven't hit a flat line, still have porn-induced fetishes. Am I permanently broken, or will I be fixed eventually? Day 67, that's a great foundation for your recovery. That's a great start, but it is just a start. 67 days is still pretty early on in this journey. Don't believe that everything will be done and dealt with by day 90. What I tell people is that within 90 days, most people see very significant progress, positive progress, but takes more like within a year to see full healing for most of us. Some people sooner, some people later. If you believe that you're permanently broken and you're on day 67, practice patience. Look to the stories of other people who have gone much longer than that and recovered, because it definitely does happen. Don't lose faith now. Don't lose hope now. You're still early on. Postal England says, little known fact, Pavlov was Finnish. Didn't know that. Didn't know his nationality. Timon asks, what do you think about the Coomer meme? I only know a little bit about it. I've seen it in a couple of articles, and I don't know what its origins are. I don't know if it is intended to be racist or anti-Semitic or not. I've seen some people say that it is. Some other people say that it's just a depiction of someone who is totally lost in porn and masturbation and feeling pathetic and feeling like a loser. And if that's the case, yeah, I've felt like that at times in my life, and it is an effective illustration. But if it is intended to be anti-Semitic or something, I for years, ever since I've started sharing my story and trying to help people with this, I've seen people talking about how the Jews run the pornography industry and that it's all a conspiracy to emasculate Gentiles, and that I just don't know where this comes from. I've never seen any evidence of anything like this, and I don't know how people make this leap, and I don't know why Jewish people get so much crap. But I don't think there's a big Jewish conspiracy, and if you believe that, I guess tell me why, but I don't think you're going to convince me. Sanchez asks, what do you do when you have no accountability partner? Well, if you're looking for an accountability partner for those accountability softwares like Covenant Eyes that I recommend, then there's usually someone you can find. A lot of us don't have one at the beginning, but think about who in your life you might be able to open up to, ask for help. You don't have to give them all the details. You can just say, I've realized that pornography use, which is something that is really common now, like most every guy does it, it seems like, but I've realized that it's something that I don't want in my life. It's given me, bad information about sex, and I find it difficult to quit, which indicates to me that I really should. And it would help me if you fulfill this role of being my accountability partner. I'm going to set up this software on my computers. It'll just let me know that whatever I do online, I got to be okay with my friends seeing, like you, that I've chosen as my accountability partners. So you get a report on the weekly, and if you see anything concerning in that report, anything that's flagged, then just give me a call. But I don't expect you to, because I think that all I need really is to have that accountability and know that what I do online doesn't exist in isolation. And if you have no one in your life that you can think of to ask that of them, then go onto the forums, find an accountability partner there. It's not as good because it can be less motivating, because you know that this person also struggles with porn, and it's not as much of a motivator to not allow them to see whatever you're looking up as it would be for a real life friend or family member. But you can still find an accountability partner, and it can still be helpful. Akijuni says, thanks a lot for your answer. Gave me hope and encouraged me. Also gave me a good feeling for the girl who is visiting me in 20 minutes at my place. I like her. Good luck, my friend. Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. Addicted Gamer says, my willpower helps me to stop wet dreams. Just stop fantasizing and don't get soft to porn. It's as easy as breathing. I'm not sure what that second part means, but yeah, definitely that is one tip that I've heard before, is try not to fantasize sexually while you're going to sleep. If you do, it can lead to a higher occurrence of wet dreams. Row says, I think I am the worst porn addict. 18 years PMO with no real successful sexual experience. Escalated to the most disgusting porn. Have all signs of extreme addiction. How long will it take to cure? As far as the sexual dysfunction goes, as long as you're porn free, most people are able to achieve complete recovery within a year. That's the simple and easier part of this. As far as recovery from addiction goes, it's a lifelong journey. There's not going to be a day where you can just say, that's totally behind me. Don't ever have to think about that again. Addiction is lifelong. It doesn't mean that it has to limit the quality of your life or the quality of your relationships, but it does mean that it's something you're going to have to be aware of and going to have to remember the lessons that allow you to become free and not become complacent. So I doubt that you're the worst porn addict. Just from what you've told me here, I've seen people with stats and numbers worse than yours, and you're not permanently broken. I don't believe that. Willing asks if I have a Kindle. I'm thinking about getting a paper theme new Kindle, but curious if it has internet ability. I'm hoping that it doesn't have access to the internet. I do have a Kindle. It's right here, and I use it all the time. I love it. Carry a whole library with you. It does have internet access, but not to the level where it would probably be a temptation, because you can't watch videos on it. It's a type of screen that it's just built for displaying text, and it has a very slow refresh rate, so you can see pictures, but they're going to be black and white and kind of pixelated, and the internet browsing functions are very rudimentary, so probably not going to be that big of a temptation for you. But if your addiction is largely or partly to the written word and to erotic stories, then it could still be a source of temptation for you. How is the porn industry funded if most people watch free content? Well, advertising is a big part of it. Just like here on YouTube, advertisements run on those streaming websites, and a lot of people don't pay for any pornography. They'll just go to those streaming websites, but a large enough portion of them are willing to pay for the specific kind of content that they're looking for. So these free videos funnel people into the paid models, paid subscriptions, and also the live cams, live chats are a big source of money in the industry. So there is definitely money being made in the pornography industry. And I'm going to take a break from the Q&A right now just to let you all know about something that is going on right now. Something that I sent out to my newsletter. Everyone subscribe to my newsletter. And that is that Alexander Rhodes of NoFap, most of you probably are familiar with him, or at least familiar with NoFap. He just filed a defamation lawsuit against an individual who has run a campaign against him and many others of us in this industry, trying to educate people about the dangers of pornography use, and has worked for years to discredit and destroy Alexander and NoFap and many other people in this sector because of, I'm not really sure why, some vested interest in protecting the pornography industry. So Alexander is looking for help from the community to help pay for the legal expenses. This will be a very important case. So I encourage you to go check that out. Let's see what the link is. nofap.org/ no, that's not it. Okay, nofap.com/defend Alex. So check that out. Watch the video there. It's an interesting topic, and they could use your support. All right, get back to the Q&A. Thanks, Simon, for joining us. Peace. Omar says, I've been binging for 2+ months. I've been addicted for 4 years. I tried all this year very hard to quit, but now I'm so unmotivated and gave up. But I don't want to give up. What do I do? Yeah, it's even more difficult after you've committed for the first time and then fallen, slipped, to get back on your feet and regain that motivation. I know how it is. I would really recommend educating yourself first. If you haven't read my book, read it. Find it on my website, free as a PDF, addictedtointernetporn.com. And never stop trying new things. Never stop learning. Never stop stretching your comfort zone, because many, thousands of people have done it before you, and you can do it too. Don't try to do it by yourself. Don't try to do it without any support or guidance. That is a trap. Addiction is a disease of isolation, secrecy, loneliness, and they feed each other. The more you're using, the more all those things plague you. The more you protect your isolation and segregate yourself from others, keep secrets, the more vulnerable you are to your addiction. So reach out for help. If you don't know where to go to my website, look at the resources, email me if you want more information, noah@coachchurch.com. Black Rain says, I have 0 sex drive, and I don't get aroused at all with real women, and I don't even feel the need for sex. I don't know what is wrong with me. I'm 4 months free from PMO, and it's not like the last time I did it. That's a common experience along this journey. It's likely not permanent unless there's something else going on. If you really are just recovering from something that's pornography induced, then it sounds like a flat line, and those are temporary. They can be very distressing, but the more you know about them, the more you'll be able to accept it and just accept what your body is feeling like right now, knowing that it's temporary. It will come to an end on its own. 4 months is not an unusual amount of time for that. It can last longer. So don't lose hope, don't despair, and don't try to reactivate your sex drive with pornography. That's definitely the worst thing that you can do right now. Sanchez asks, is masturbating without watching porn, does it count as a relapse? So this is, of course, a very common question that I get. I work with people who are struggling with pornography-related problems. Now, pornography and masturbation, are they related? Absolutely, but they're not the same thing. And throughout this journey, it can be very beneficial to abstain from masturbation entirely. And at other times, it could be beneficial to engage in certain types of porn-free masturbation. So don't conflate the two. If you have decided for whatever reason that being masturbation-free is what's right for you right now, then so be it. But have that as a separate goal from being porn-free. And if you do relapse and masturbate porn-free, don't look at that as a relapse on this other mission of yours, which is to be pornography-free. And don't use that as an excuse to then binge on PMO. Nick asks, how do you know when you're able to bring in masturbation after a period of time on NoFap? So there are a few things that porn-free masturbation can help with on this journey. If someone has been having a very difficult time getting any lengthy period of time sober from pornography use, and they continue to try to go 100% abstinent, continue to relapse, continue to break those promises to themselves, it can be beneficial for some of those guys just to focus on being porn-free at the beginning and continuing to masturbate without porn. And then once they have a solid foundation of being pornography-free, if they want to then try to be completely abstinent for a while, that can be a better time to do so. For other people who maybe are able to become pornography-free, not relapse, but perhaps they've never or hardly ever masturbated without porn in their lives, it can be beneficial for them to then explore that and start getting back in touch with their own internally generated fantasies as a stepping stone between being a pornography addict and then engaging in healthy sexual intimacy with a partner. If you're wondering if you're ready for that, you can do the test, which is masturbating without any stimulus at all, like any visual stimulus, and no fantasy, just using gentle stimulation and lubrication. And if you're able to do that and maintain arousal, reach climax, then that's a great sign that you're physically resensitized. If not, then give it some more time. Now, it's not to say that every time you do MO, that it has to be without any fantasy at all. But if you do use fantasy, make it realistic, make it first person, memories of real experiences or potential future experiences. Take it slow, take it, one step at a time through the fantasy. Like, imagine you're on a date, you have a kiss, you start becoming closer and closer. Don't just jump right into the sex portion like we do with porn. And don't jump between different fantasies or different scenes or imagining different partners, because that's not a reflection of real life either. That's a reflection of how pornography works. So if you find that you're not able to maintain arousal to a fantasy like that, then you need more time. If you find that you are, but then you do it several times and you start to need more extreme or pornographic fantasy, take that as a red flag, take some more time off. So those are my standard recommendations on porn-free masturbation. And some people, they find that every time that they try to use porn-free masturbation, it just leads them back down a slippery slope to having more urges for pornography. And some people, it will be best to only express their sexuality and have sexual release with a partner. And it really is just up to the individual to decide that for themselves, to experiment. Ro asks, will Viagra help to perform if you have ED and performance anxiety? There are very few instances where I recommend ED medications to someone who is struggling with a porn-induced sexual dysfunction, because it can do a lot of harmful things. It can cause you to perform before you're ready, like spraining your ankle real bad and then taking painkillers and going for a run rather than just resting yourself and allowing healing to happen. And there can also be other impacts as well, psychological dependence, and many people think that they need it when they really do not. But very rarely, when someone has completely rebooted, resensitized, they've been PMO free for a long time, but they still have a ton of anxiety around the act, then that can be a confidence booster for the first time or two, and then after that, they can wean themselves off. So very rarely I might indicate that that's recommended, but for the most of us, no, it's not necessary and it can be harmful. All right, my voice is getting tired, so we're going to be wrapping this up soon. But thank you all for joining me. And if you'd like to help, just share this information as much as you're able to. If you're able to post it on Twitter or social media, great. Post my channel, post my website. If you're not able to do that because you don't want people in your life seeing that this is the kind of information you're looking at, I understand. But maybe tell people in person if you see that they might be struggling with similar issues, because we cannot continue to afford to be silent on these issues. That's how people remain isolated and remain unable to be helped. So share it as much as you can. All right, a couple more questions and then I'm going to end. Nepal says, hello Noah, just want to thank you for helping me to get rid of my PIED. I had successful sex 1 week ago. I pretty much lost my virginity at age 21. Congratulations, my friend. Will no PMO help me to improve my focus, concentration, and memory? Many of us do find that happens along this journey, and it might not be an immediate effect, and it might be up and down like a roller coaster ride. But once you find yourself leveling off on a new normal, then yes, most of us find that all of those things are improved. I can't guarantee it. Might not have been something that was much impacted by your use, but I can tell you that it's very common to see those impacts. All right, my friends. There's one more interesting question, and then we'll call it a day. Monkey says, hi Noah, do you need to have a life-changing moment to leave PMO in your past? Or can it be through relapsing over and over, and one day you're done? Any moment can be a life-changing moment. It's up to us to decide which moments are life-changing moments, and those can be very simple or even common occurrences. It's just that we decide, okay, my life is going to change now. And then in retrospect, that will be a life-changing moment. So it doesn't need to be extremely dramatic. Don't need to lose your marriage or lose your job or something like that in order to have the motivation necessary to pull yourself out of this, to grow beyond this addiction. Any moment can be a life-changing moment, and you can choose where your rock bottom is. If you want your rock bottom to be as low as you are right now at this very moment, then you can look back in the future and realize that that was your rock bottom. But rock bottom can always get lower, so it's up to you to decide where that is. All right, my friends, I know you have more questions. Join me again next month. I'm doing these monthly, like I said. And if you'd like my personal help one-on-one, you can find ways to work with me on my website, addictedtointernetporn.com. Again, check out nofap.com/defendalex. It's an important campaign and something I think you'll find interest in. All right, everybody. Peace. Have a wonderful PMO-free day, and I'll see you next time.